phases. So,
EJ Barthel, new running backs coach, or I-backs coach, however you see fit. But just really excited to be here. Thankful, grateful for the opportunity Coach Rhule has provided me and to come here and join the staff. And just it's been nothing but a great experience thus far, and looking forward to getting to work when the guys get back here pretty soon. So.
Steve Sipple, Husker Online. So you come in, you start looking at your room, start looking at video, I assume. What's your first impression of the group you have at running back?
Overall impressed. Truthfully, I thought, after evaluating the tape and looking at some of the guys in the roster, familiar with some of them at other places, at Ramir at a high school. We got similar tracks. I coached at Bergen Catholic High School, so I'm familiar with Ramir, and just really excited about the group. A lot of potential out there, and how they run the football, and I'm excited to work with the whole group. Really am.
Hey, Coach Greg Smith inside Nebraska. A lot of this part of the time was about recruiting, kind of outside of the program. But how important was it to you to be able to recruit your own room during this time?
Well, I tell you, you're saying as far as recruiting just running backs?
Recruit those guys that are already there.
Yeah, that's a new experience, right? I think with the transfer portal and all this stuff and with going on with guys going different programs for various different reasons. It wasn't a whole lot of recruiting, to be honest. It was more so of getting down. The first order of business when I got here was from Coach Rhule, and it was to get with those guys and make sure that we put a face on a face and get my own impression of who they are after I've already watched the tape and things of that nature. But just really excited about every single one of the kids. I had great conversations with them, and in my room, it's we're people. It's obviously I'm their coach, and their players, but we're people. You know what I mean? And that communication part is really important to me. And I was really comfortable with everybody in the group.
Coach Sean Callahan with Husker Online. That experience you had at UConn, what did you gain from that? I mean, you guys walked into a situation where they were one of the only programs I think that canceled their season.
That's right.
Independent school,
yeah. And
you guys got them to a bowl game. I mean, how rewarding was this past year? What did you gain just kind of learning from that experience this last year?
First I'd like to thank Jim Mora for him bringing me there. I thought that was a great opportunity that I saw, and when he entrusted in me to help lead that charge, I couldn't have been more excited to be there. And Jim is great. And with that being said, I thought that the challenge was definitely there. You know what I mean? As far as a lot of the players there have not played before, and so we had a lot of first timers on that field. Some incoming freshmen, some guys that were on the roster that didn't really play. So really, it was kind of like I was coaching freshmen. You know what I mean? But the kids really bought in, and I'm very thankful for each and every one of those kids in that group. And I think I cried about 3 days in the transition process because how much of a connection we had with those guys and how hard they played and practiced for me. That if you watch any of the UConn games last year, the one thing I hope you were able to see was the effort out of that running back unit and how they ran the football and how much pride they took each rep. I get choked up just talking about it. Great kids, they're great kids, and I appreciate those guys, and they'll be special. All the guys I've coached, they'll be special to me for the rest of my career.
Hey, EJ, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Coach Satterfield last week kind of struck a nerve with people when talking about the fullback up here. I know you had a guy, Robert Burns,
That's right.
at UConn this last year who
That's
filled
right.
a lot of roles for you. Can you explain what he did in that offense and how it might translate to Nebraska?
Well, I played fullback, so I usually know what they look like when I see them. And when I saw Robert Burns, I initially thought that's what a fullback looks like, and he played tailback, and that was a huge challenge for him in the spring to change positions and do things that he's never done before. And I thought that he accepted that challenge and exceeded my expectations. I'm biased. I thought he was one of the best fullbacks in the country last year, and and I know Coach Satterfield and Coach Rhule are excited about having a fullback here. And I got a chance to work with Alex Arma at Carolina Panthers and Gio Ricci and those guys. And and I played fullback. You know what I mean? And I'm excited to get my hands on one for sure. Absolutely.
Sammy Kuhn from the Omaha World Herald. Why did you want to follow Matt Rhule here to Nebraska? What do you like about him as a coach? I think?
You know, funny story. The first time I worked with Matt Rhule, I got hired at Temple, and you know, something hit my brain. One of the first times we hit the field, very similar weather conditions as far as cold, and you know, as a player, you know, indoor, you have an indoor facility, an outdoor facility, and even as me as a player, whenever someone announced, "Hey, we're indoors today," yeah, "Hey, we're outdoors," you know, something hit me when he said we're going to hit in the field. And because the weather was really cold, not one kid said anything. Not one guy made a noise or a grunt. And that moment, when I was on that staff, that moment I knew that the culture that he developed at that place was pretty special. So I'm a believer in Coach Rhule and what he stands for. In fact, I'm in alignment with the standards of what he represents as far as development and process. And I think that it applies to life and it applies to football. And you know, if Coach Rhule ever calls me, I'm going to pick up, and I would love to be part of whatever he's got going on because I truly believe in his process.
Obviously, we all grow and change, right? In the decade or so that you've been with him, how has he maybe changed since he was back then versus who he is today in 2023?
Well, I think we've all changed. Our experience in the NFL, I think that's a little different when you're coaching pros versus college guys. And you know, it's my personal experience of you know, the thing I noticed that in the NFL is the guys that we had to coach, they don't have to listen to us. Does that make sense? Like in college, there's more of a, you know, they don't have to, but there's more of a need that there's a lot of talent in the NFL, and you have to bring some value to get their attention and for them to want to take your coaching. It's not about just, hey, I say you do. It's more so about how can you help me get better. And I think that was a huge change, and I see that in Coach Rhule as well, that there's a lot of guys out there that need development physically and mentally. And in the NFL, we were able to tap into some of that with some of those guys, and that was the biggest thing I noticed with myself and others on staff and Coach Rhule. Yeah.
Coach Steve Mark with Inside Nebraska, when you're talking running backs, what specific traits do you really look for and really kind of value?
I think it's a mentality. You know, I really do. I think it starts with that. I think the running back to me is the ultimate team player. You know, I think that for us, we need to be able to run the football and protect in pass protection and in block in the run game and be vital members of special teams. So the ultimate team player in my mind. And what I look for most in backs is their will and their mentality to not get tackled, right? And to run with a sense of violence upon contact, right? To me, that's the biggest thing that I'm looking for in guys. I want to make sure that we're striving to finish every single run. I think in the run game in college football and football in period, when you're able to run the ball effectively, I think you have a shot to win the game. I think you take the soul out of the defense when you're able to do that, dominate the line of scrimmage, which will be one of our principles here. So when you can do that, I think that's a mindset thing more than a physical thing. You got to want to be that way. So that's the number one trait I'm looking for. And ultimately, athleticism. You know what I mean? And you have to have a certain measurable and a certain speed to play at this level. But you know, my job is to coach their eyes and help them understand where the ball is supposed to go and how to run the ball when they get there. You know, and that's the biggest thing.
EJ, Kevin Suits with Channel 10 here in town. What was your knowledge of Nebraska football prior to taking the job, and how familiar are you with the program?
Well, I mean, to me, it's the original RBU, right? Yeah, that's the reality as a running back coach taking this job. I mean, this is one of the best jobs in the country. You know, the tradition that's built here on running the football. I mean, I'm honored, honestly honored to be the guy that's a part of that room and help lead those guys, because I know how important it is to this fan base that we run the ball effectively. And you know, this is one of those jobs where you get the chills thinking about game day, and that's Rozier, Roger Craig. I mean, come on, Mon Green. Those guys are legends. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, to be part of that group in some way, some form. I worked with Amir Abdullah. You know, just to be part of that special group now is pretty special to me.
Hey, Coach, Aaron Sorensen at Hail Varsity. Some familiarity with Nebraska because you've coached in the Big Ten. So how has maybe the Big Ten changed in your experience? from both the player and then into coaching with the run game, or maybe how has it been the same? How do you see Nebraska kind of fitting into the Big Ten in the future?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, one comment that hits my brain as you asked me that is the culture here and the tradition in the Big Ten. Funny story, my first time coaching here in a game, I got in the elevator, is a very nice elderly woman, and as I was going into the press box, and she said, oh, it's very nice to meet you, and she was thankful I held the door. And then her next comment was, I'm glad you're in the conference because we need more wins. And I was just I was so caught off guard. I'm like, did you just really do that? Yeah, so, I'm very aware of the tradition, and I'm very aware of the pride that comes with this conference. And the weather plays a huge factor, and there's a certain style of run of the run game in the Big Ten, and so having familiarity with it, being in the Big Ten before, I'm really excited to kind of do it again.
You did with your experience in the Northeast and New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and seeing what Coach Rhule and the staff was able to do in a short period of time in that area. What kind of potential and opportunity do you think exists moving ahead in future classes to continue to do well there in recruiting?
Well, I think being in the middle of the country gives us opportunities to really be elite in the recruiting world. We can put our hands on pretty much every part of the country and traditionally tap into those original resources that Nebraska is familiar with, the West Coast and Texas and in the Northeast. And obviously, me being from the Northeast, and there's a lot of pride in Nebraska when there was New Jersey, New York City, PA kids coming here on a regular basis. So that, to me, I look at that as a challenge. I think that's a challenge I need to really work my tail off and create that pipeline to help Coach Rhule and the university bring that pipeline back, and that's going to be important for sure.
Hey, Coach, Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. When did Quinton first pop on your radar, and just how you enjoyed watching him develop and what you liked about him?
Well, I tell you, it goes back to Coach Rhule a little bit. When I was at Temple, I got a chance to work under the late George DeLeon, and the one thing as a young coach, I had to drive him around in recruiting, and I really had to learn how to recruit from George, and Coach DeLeon would make an emphasis on, you make sure you cover the ground, cover your territory, you give every high school coach their respect when they recommend a player. And that's something that stuck with me my whole career, and that's how it happened. Had a great relationship with the high school coach, and he had reached out to me and said, I need to keep my eyes on this guy. And I've recruited that school before. And when he says something, I'm going to look at it. And he was absolutely right. I think the kid fell on the radar, and fortunate for us, I mean, he's ours. And I couldn't be more excited about him. I think he just scored 1,000 points in basketball the other night, and he's a heck of an athlete. And the sky's the limit for a kid like that.
Tony White said last week, you got to recruit on this staff. What's the energy been like that you've seen just with the guys you're familiar with, guys who are new as far as the recruiting in this first month even?
Yeah, the guys I've just working with our guys before, they love recruiting. Everyone on our staff, they take pride in it, and it's competitive amongst us. And I think that it helps filter the process along, and it's a positive competition between us. We're helping to push each other and strive to find the very best players we can find. And so that element of amongst our staff is pretty is a tool in my opinion.
And from the outside looking in, being on the staff of Penn State staff in 2016 when they win a Big Ten title looks like a pretty cool job, even if you're not coaching on the field. But you leave there to become a position coach at the FCS level. And I was thinking about how Matt Rhule would say, he said in a speech one time, like, if you want to be a coach, you need to go somewhere and coach, and not just be, a personnel person. Why did you decide to leave there? And what value did you get out of those 3 jobs, like right in a row, that you took after you left Penn State?
Well, it's funny. So when that did happen, when I started my career, I envisioned myself always being a head coach at some point. And then I was very clear with Coach Rhule on my goals. But I wanted to learn the whole process of evaluation and recruiting and how it works from top to bottom. And Coach Rhule is someone that that I really even when I'm not under his leadership, it's still a guy that I'm still going to reach out to and ask for his advice. And when I did make that decision, it was really simple. It was a 1-minute, 2-minute conversation. I said, Coach, I got a couple of opportunities to stay at Penn State, and I had also had some opportunities at some other places that were reaching out. And he asked me simple as, "You want to coach?" And I said, "You're darn right." And he said, "Well, go coach." And it was that simple. I heard loud and clear what he was telling me to do, and that was all I really needed to push me over the edge to make sure that I chased my dream and get after it.
DJ, Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald. We're going to talk to Evan Cooper here too. You worked with him a little bit. What sort of stands out about Coach Cooper?
Well, you know what? His energy. Whether he's evaluating players or he's coaching, you're always going to feel him. That's Coop. He does a great job with the evaluation. I think he's one of the best evaluators in the country, and he takes pride in it, and he takes pride in his coaching the same way. You're gonna feel him at practice. The kids are gonna feel him. If you're there at practice, you're gonna feel him. You're gonna feel his voice and how he runs around. He's an energetic person, and he pushes guys like myself to want to be better for sure. So I really appreciate Ev.
DJ, same question about Garrett McGuire. Not a lot of guys his age running around as full-time position coaches at the Power 5 level. What have you observed about him, and what do you look forward to in working with him on the offensive side?
I mean, it's only natural to look at his age and say, oh, he's a young guy. But however, you watch him coach DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, and I think those guys are pretty impressive players, and he's able to do that. So I think that he's going to do a great job, and he's one of us. You know what I mean? And he takes pride in the coaching, and he's not afraid to coach guys the right way, but the hard way is right, and having tough conversations and getting guys where they need to be. So, and another guy that's also going to bring a lot of energy, and he's probably more, he's in more shape than most of us. So, it's going to be fun to try to keep up with him as well.
How much have you been able to watch Anthony Grant and kind of what he did last year and just study him, and even A.J. Allen? They were kind of the two lead backs out of the gates for Nebraska a year ago.
That's right. And Ramir the year before he had a pretty,
And
yeah.
Irvin, even, I guess you could say, was the starter before he got hurt.
For sure, and I watched Emmett, a lot of his spring stuff as well. I love it. I think AG has. I call him AG. I think everyone calls him AG. AG, his sky's the limit for the kid. The kid's got really good potential. He's got a chance to be pretty special. He's a very powerful runner, and A.J. Allen is as dynamic as they get. He's got the ability to kind of do it all in the run game. Ramirez got elite speed, and he's got the ability to make defenders miss in open space. Emmett is going to be a high effort, versatile guy. That's he doesn't have a lot of playing experience, but just watching his spring practice, seeing him do multiple things on special teams, and seeing his effort. So he's going to have a lot of versatility he brings to the room, and Gabe Irvin. I mean, golly, you look at that kid. You walk in any high school in the country, you look at Gabe Irvin, you say, who is this guy? You know what I mean? And so, the transfer portal for me wasn't really something I was really interested into. I would say Coach Rhule wasn't interested into. And so for us, I'm really excited to work with that group because I think I got a pretty special one.
DJ, Zach Carpenter with Inside Nebraska, you talked about the competition within the staff and recruiting. Is there any examples you can share with us to sort of peel back the curtain behind some of that competition?
No, there's nothing really that jumps out like, but it's just the culture amongst us to make sure we're pushing each other to do the very best. And everyone has an opinion, everyone has a voice, and it's good to hear other guys' opinions, and maybe they'll see something that you may not see, and vice versa. So I think it's a healthy way to work amongst each other, and it goes back to everything we do in our culture. I mean, the biggest thing for us is, we're people, coaching people, and the number one thing is communication and being able to communicate, whether it's easy conversations or tough conversations, and that goes right into coaching. You know what I mean? I think that's the reality, and we're going to do a great job pushing each other as staff, and we're going to do a great job pushing these players. And I just really can't wait to get to work because I'm really excited for sure.